How would we at Power create ways for all of us to go on God's mission rather than just give it to the bright young energetic new pastor to do on the fringes? Does that make sense? And so for us it wasn't about sharpening the edge, it was about sharpening across the whole church and creating some ways to do that. And by contra to that, I come back from overseas and it's a Mother's Day service, which I don't have much to do with because I'm still jet lagged. And as part of the service, they're giving out flowers to all the women in the congregation. And I'm just sitting there enjoying the service. And halfway through the service, two men get up and walk to the front. This is Sunday morning service. And they are walking, it's almost like a dance. And I think, oh, maybe this is going to be something creative with our worship. And they pick up the remainder of the flowers and they start to walk out. And as they do, one of them comes across to me and says, is anything else happening with these flowers? And I say, I don't know, I'm a senior pastor, I've got no idea what's happening here in this church service. And they say, okay then, because we want to take the rest of these flowers out and give them out into the community. And they disappear on out the door. And they give out all these flowers into the community. And I'm sitting there going, this is actually quite a cool thing that's just happened. That from the centre of our main congregation, there is mission life happening. That these people don't need to buy into a program called Give Out Flowers on Mother's Day to reach our community. There is something intrinsic about what God is doing in the lives of people in our congregation that they just get up and do things. Might be expressing their life in different ways. We already had glimmers of that. We had a Sunday evening congregation. We had a once a month alternative worship service. We had a main Sunday congregation. And it was simply there for about saying what else would might start to dream and grow in this place. There are people who are starting to emerge on the fringes of our life who are like those little large seeds. And so Joe walks into my office and Joe has got some questions about Christianity. Could she ask me them? And she produces 3 pages of questions. Easy questions like, do all Christians hate gays? Because that's what it looks like on TV when you see enough is enough. Easy questions like, why aren't all Christians vegetarians? Because that's a better way to care for God's earth. Easy questions like, why are there 4 Gospels? Couldn't they get their story straight? And Joe and I talk back and forth. And I realised, Joe's story is that she has grown up in New Zealand. She's gone overseas. She's done her OE. She's seen different religions. And she's come back to try and find out what religion means for her. Because New Zealand apparently is a Christian country, she should start there. And so she goes along to Alpha, and Alpha is no help to her at all. Because it's dealing with questions that she actually isn't asking. That's not a slam on Alpha, that's just Joe's story. And I realised that Joe needs space to ask questions. And out of that asking the questions and the dialogue back and forth with me, there is growth. Because at the end of it, Joe says, could we do this again? This has been really helpful. And I say, sure. And then Joe says, I've got some friends. How many, could they come along as well? Sure, they can come along as well. How many friends will I need to make it worth your while? Quite a good question, to be honest, really. And what I realised was that I could try and take Joe into morning church, but she was learning about God by talking and by discussion. And that was God's pathway to her life. And therefore, if we have these 3 circles, what would it look like to create something with and around Joe? And so I went back to Joe and I said, Joe, I'd like to start a church with you. She says, I'm not a Christian. I said, well, that's the point. Really. In Luke 10, you go and you dwell in the towns and villages, and around their tables, conversations about God start. And that's where the kingdom of God is near. What does it look like, Joe's name? The kingdom of God is near around your conversations. What will community look like? What will growing in God look like? What will mission look like? And so out of that we formed Expresso.